This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by PowerSwap. You'll hear more about them later on in this episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. What is up? I am your lovely host. Well, hopefully you think I'm your lovely host, but I am your host, Charlie Shrem, here at Untold Stories, where twice a week together, we get to dive deep with some of crypto's most influential leaders, brilliant people, sharpest tools in the shed, brightest crayons on the box, to really understand how this movement came to be, where we are right now, and where we're going. We've been spending a bunch of episodes, the past 10 or 15 episodes, talking about the industrialization, the institutionalization of mining. We're talking about mining. We've talked to 3 publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies are doing crazy things, huge scale. They've all said you need 10, 20 million dollars and 5-year runways to start. But I'm actually here to tell you that not everyone agrees with that. And there we could flip the script. And today to talk about that, we have John Stefanopoulos, the founder and CEO of FutureBit. FutureBit, first of all, John, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You develop cryptocurrency hardware solutions, and it's actually, you're a real company because when you're doing research, you go on Bitcoin Talk, and there's a lot of people that still have a lot of really good things to say about you because, mining companies, there's always a fear, especially ones that are developing hardware. You provide mining hardware for Bitcoin and Litecoin, develop ASIC mining farms, facility. You help everyone do everything out of your New York office, and your philosophy is a simple one. On your website, you say every single person should benefit from the extraordinary opportunities blockchains provide. Your goal is to provide low cost, easy to use hardware aimed at not just for mining, but educating, spreading awareness, and learning about why this technology is important and how it's a revolution. And just quickly browsing screenshots other customers posted of products of not just the user interface, but it kind of reminds me of, remember when computers first came out in the early PC days, you'd be able to buy this like custom build your own computer, plug it in, the software was all turnkey, and it was where all your universities, your schools, and your government institutions had computers, but most people didn't. And you needed those type of products to get most people over the hump, to get them into mass adoption. So that's what you're doing, John, and that's why I love. I'm very excited to be talking to you today.
Yeah. So, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head in terms of where the industry is right now, and in terms of where I think we are in the cycle of that mass adoption, especially on the computing side of Bitcoin. In the early days, Bitcoin did start that way. The whole Bitcoin node and software was all integrated into the computer itself, the laptop. Right. When you first download the software, you had the wallet, you had the full node, you had mining.
Most people don't remember that
right,
one software you downloaded everything.
Right. And that's been kind of lost in the past decade. So that is why I founded the company and what I'm trying to bring back. Satoshi's original vision was one CPU, one vote, right? That's what he said back then. And that's kind of been lost because that CPU has been outsourced, like you said, to these huge institutions and farms. And a lot of new Bitcoin users today don't understand that is one of the 3 pillars of Bitcoin. There's the wallet, there's the full node, and there's mining. And a lot of people have dismissed mining because, like you said, there's no accessible hardware out there. It's very hard to run one of these huge server grade machines in someone's house. So I founded a company to change that and to bring accessible hardware back to everyday people and be able to participate in this pillar of Bitcoin that every single person that owns Bitcoin should be participating in.
What type of products are you selling and who are your customers?
Yeah, so right now our core product is the Apollo BTC. So that's this little guy right here. He, fits in my palm.
Oh, good. I'm happy you're showing it to us because now all the listeners are like, shit, I should be watching this episode right now. I want more people to the YouTube. So what with that device right there, that's very small compared to a traditional one miner in, a mining farm in Louisiana or West Texas is huge. I mean, it's one tower is probably the size of, I mean, this bag or bigger. So
Yeah, and
it's a
then
tower.
it's through a 3,000 watt machine where you need 220 volt power to even run it. So most people can't even run that in their house because you
You need a
you need,
switch or
you need
whatever.
yeah you know dryer type outlet to actually run one of those. So the product that we sell now, we specifically designed it in the sub 200 watt range on purpose. We wanted to limit how much power there is for two reasons. One, obviously for people to actually be able to run in their house. It's super quiet, it's low power. Um, you can run it on your desk and you can barely hear it. And number two, and this is kind of the more important aspect, is we wanted to keep the power costs to a negligible level where most people won't see a hit on their power bill. And the main reason we want to do that is we want to, like what you talked before about who our customers were. A lot of our customers are, new Bitcoin users that, learned about Bitcoin and then they've learned about the technology layer, a high level, but are dabbling into how Bitcoin is run and what it means and how the infrastructure is built, and they want to participate in it.
I really
Um,
want one of these.
so obviously, like the first question you get is what's the ROI on the device, and that's the question that I've been thinking a lot about on how to answer, and why I built the product on where it is we have to get away from that narrative. You know, we have to get
Yes,
away from Bitcoin mining being just about profits and ROIs and essentially mining USD, right? That's what these big companies are doing. That's what these big institutional players are doing.
yeah,
They're not mining Bitcoin. They're mining US dollars. And at the bottom line, they're beholden to their investors, they're beholden to all these institutional players. That's really all they care about. And obviously at least it's my opinion, but front face, they say they're helping to decentralize the network, they want to participate in this, and they are. A lot of these
no, but
players do
Bitcoin will
have.
die. Bitcoin will die if mining becomes 100% institutionalized, because
Right.
institutional mining is just supposed to be a service for Bitcoin. And what I mean by that is the value of Bitcoin came from the fact that we were all mining on our computers. The fact that
Exactly.
this is a decentralized network of people that are running their own spending their own electricity costs on their own computers at home or their own devices like yours individually, and then collectively, we say vires innumera, strength in numbers, collectively. And so mining at an industrial level is very great because it definitely secures the network. It gives us a huge increase in capability of the difficulty. The difficulty goes up, the amount of terahashes on the network
Right. Right.
increases and everything. So it's great for the security of the network, but it's not great for like the why and the value of this whole thing. And if that's lost, then they're all just mining nothing.
Yeah, and you know in the early days, well, and at least that's why I got into Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin the first time was around 2011. When I ran the
Wow.
software, I didn't care about the power cost of what it ran through on my computer to mine Bitcoin. Right? Most of the early adopters, they
It
were
was the
there.
noise.
They truly believe in what Bitcoin means, and it was really cool to be able to run the software. I'm like, oh, cool. Look, I'm mining Bitcoin right now. And that's another thing that really inspires people. What we've seen from our customers is that we see people are way more engaged in Bitcoin when they understand the fundamental technology behind it and what it means to mine and what it means that you're participating in the network, you're securing it, you're doing this transaction processing. And, a light bulb goes off in their heads. And it's really cool to see. We get emails all the time like, wow, I didn't know this world existed, and you've opened this up for me. And it's a really powerful message. And that's the message that Satoshi originally put out that was lost when Bitcoin mining was pushed out, and it became inaccessible to most people. So that's the kind of core value we're trying to bring back into the ecosystem, where you have not just thousands. Like right now, Bitcoin mining, most people don't know it's controlled by less than 1,000 mines right now.
Sure. Yeah.
There's less than 1,000 players
I've
in the
had half
space
of
that
them on this
control,
show.
yeah, that control a major majority of the hash power. So we need to flip that where it's not 1,000 huge players, but millions of small players. And when we get to that stage, like you said, right now, great, we need it. We need to secure we need to secure the hash rate, make sure it's high enough where there's no evil actors that can come in and easily manipulate it. But going forward, once Bitcoin becomes more adopted, we need to make sure that these centralized entities are put in check, where there's no government that
Yes.
can come in and be like, okay, here's 100 people that I can bring together in a room and that
That's the
control
biggest
50%.
problem.
Right. Yeah. They control 50% of the network and be like, all right, we're going to start doing transaction censorship on all the blocks. And you guys have to do it. And they can easily do it if they wanted to, if they could get, you know, a major majority of the hash power together in one room, which is easy to do right now.
Absolutely. And
And if you have, 1 million people that have, let's say, 10 terahash machines, that would be a huge portion of the hash rate where, you can't go after 1 million people. And that's the power of the Bitcoin network. And that's the whole original vision and where we need to get to again, eventually.
if you look at the Bitcoin network and proof of work, like you said earlier, there's like the three, and it kind of, I look at it almost kind of how I learned about how the American government works, the checks and balances, right? You have the legislature, you have the
Right.
Congress, and you have the presidency or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like words for it, but I didn't pay attention to that class. We were doing Bitcoin stuff. Um, but Bitcoin's like you said the same way. You said wallet, right? So I look at it as the holders, and that's 30% of the power right there. Anyone who's holding
Right.
long term, you have nodes, and that's I actually put nodes and businesses in the same category because as you said, the separation of the software, nodes are run by exchanges, by businesses. There are actually node running services that will run nodes for you on 80 different blockchains or
Right.
your centralized exchange or broker dealer or whatever you operate a financial services company within our space, you have to be running nodes. So that's one aspect of the industry, probably the most vocal, the business part of the industry. That's the node. And then you have the miners who are very quiet. But like you said, that to me, the mining industry, the industrialization of it, the centralization of it, there's a big fear. Now, internally, we'll always make sure that even if there is only 1,000 of these mines across the world, the you'll always have a knowledge that they're all mining this Bitcoin thing, and the integrity of the system needs to maintain, its honesty, or else the whole system collapses, it loses all its value. So they're hopefully be honest with each other. But like you said, that seems like if there was someone who wanted to take down Bitcoin because it's the next Web 3.0, along with all of crypto, it's the next whole decentralized internet as we look at it, that seems like it's the easiest people to go after.
Yeah, and you saw the whole FUD with China and energy and all of that, and that kind of brought mine to the limelight. I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
I said early on when China banned Bitcoin mining, this was an awesome. This is the best thing that could happen to Bitcoin right now. When most people took that news as a negative news back then. Um, and it's cool that the network got decentralized in that aspect where 50% or more of the hash rate was in China, and now it's way more distributed across the globe, which is great.
Thank you, China.
But again, it's being distributed in more centralized entities. So like right now, the big push is all these companies working with big gas and big oil,
Oh yeah.
and which is a noble. There's a noble cause there, and it definitely helps in terms of the industry and CO2 emissions and all this wasted gas that's being utilized in a way better way. But again, we're shifting that power to big gas and big oil. It's like, do we want Bitcoin mining to be put in the hands of these
No.
huge conglomerates that have destroyed the world in the past couple of decades, and we're handing it off to Bitcoin?
But it's human nature
That's
too. Those same
it.
conglomerates will also try to prevent you from selling your Bitcoin miners to individual people like
Right.
me. They're
Right.
the ones who are going to lobby the rules. They're going to lobby
Yeah.
the
And
governments for their own business interests.
and it's crazy, and it's good that you mentioned that. But that's essentially what's happening with us. And
It's
I mean,
crazy.
we could do a whole episode on this, but there's intense pressure on, especially on the payment side, on the business side of censoring and stopping any Bitcoin related companies from succeeding. So we worked with Shopify, Stripe, PayPal to do a lot of our transaction processing, and we've pretty much been banned and shoved off all
Really?
of those platforms. Yeah, and the only response we've gotten from them is that we don't support crypto hardware related businesses. Um, and they put this blueprint of it's high risk. It's like, listen, the way I've run my company, I'm the core principles of my company is who I am as a person. I'm actually out here to help people, and I'm not running. FutureBit
I
pretty
need
much
some of
operates
your
as a
Apollos.
nonprofit. So I'm not here to make a shit ton of money. I'm not doing what those crazy early days ASIC companies were doing, where they're creating
Pre-sales and
massive
everything. Yeah.
pre-orders where they couldn't fulfill. We do pre-orders, and that's how we operate as a company. But it's very methodical. I make sure we're able to produce all the products that we say we produce, and we're on our third batch right now. So um, anyway, long story short, our risk is almost zero. Like we have almost no returns, which is just a testament of our customers loving our product. And number two, we have almost zero chargebacks, which is the main factor that these credit card companies do to knock someone off their network. So that tells you that there's something going on behind the scenes where it's like, why are you
Yeah. There's definitely
denying
lobbying going
service
on.
to this successful business that's bringing you in, thousands of dollars of revenue, yet you don't want them on your network. So it's crazy. It's crazy what's going on, and how there's backhanded ways of censoring this industry and controlling it under their own narrative.
Sorry to interrupt your regularly scheduled programming, but I wanted to tell you guys that if you're using PancakeSwap, Uniswap, DYDX, Sushi Swap, you're doing it wrong. You need to be using PowerSwap, because PowerSwap is a user interface, a decentralized smart contract platform that sits on top of all of these. And when you go to PowerSwap or untoldstories.link/PowerSwap, because they're refunding your gas, if you go there, then you'll be able to, on top of Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon, look for the best prices for your tokens and swap and do everything in one predefined transaction on chain. Instead of having to do the approval to this token, to that token, to do all these different things, PowerSwap does it all for you. It's decentralized. They just released their API version 5 that you can see everything. It's all open source. Very cool stuff. Untoldstories.link/PowerSwap. If you're using any of the other decentralized protocols, you're doing it wrong, because you need to be using the routing, beautiful PowerSwap routing system, and it's fully decentralized too. It's gorgeous. I'll talk to you guys soon. If you control Bitcoin mining, if you control Bitcoin mining, you can attempt to control Bitcoin.
Right.
And you can try to rein it in, and you can say to all the Bitcoiners, hey, yeah, you think this thing is, your own opted out financial system, but we actually, all the mining industry is regulated now. And just wait, within 5 years, I guarantee you'll see the first governments forcing the miners in that country to start doing blacklists, to start being able to clean Bitcoin, sanitizing, all that bullshit.
The whole KYC things on
Yeah.
Bitcoin mining pools,
Financial service agent.
that thank God got shut down, for now, but that does not mean it's not going to come back in way more full force in the future. And that's a big risk, and that's a big risk everybody that's involved in risk in Bitcoin needs to understand. Um, Bitcoin is run at the basic level by whoever processes these blocks. And whoever processes these blocks can say what transaction goes in it and what does not. And if that does not remain a decentralized nature, it will hamper the future growth of Bitcoin. And that needs to be combated. And my company is one way to do it. There's millions of other ways to get
How do I
involved.
get one? Is there a pre-order
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is it
we have
delay?
our third batch pre-order. It's on futurebit.io if you want to check it out. But again, I I hope I'm one of many, right? I don't. I'm the only one doing this right now because it's obviously a cutthroat business, and there's very little money in it. But more people have to get involved, and whether that's even just buying a Raspberry Pi, running a full node, and buying an ASIC off eBay, you're still doing the same thing, right? And more people need to do it.
As long as there's like as long as some people are mining on their own, then that scenario where the government says, "Hey, blah blah blah," the real Bitcoin community could potentially fork itself, even if it's smaller. And it's just there needs to always be a percentage of non-industrial mining to protect
Right.
us.
And
It
and and
needs to
and
be.
ideally over that 50% threshold, right? That would be ideal. Again, it would take it would take pretty much the entire Bitcoin user base to mine for that to happen at this
Yes,
point.
a
That's
really
how
good
high the
side
hash rate
effect.
is.
A really good side effect of the Apollo 2 that I just realized I remembered, um, growing up, they used to be able to figure out who was growing weed, and they do raids. How much of our taxpayer dollars went to
Right.
raiding people's houses for growing weed? So fucking stupid. But growing up, they'd raid people's houses for growing weed, and they'd know because their heating bills were a lot higher in the summer. So almost your Apollos, not only were the data, as soon as it leaves your home, the ISP can't differentiate Bitcoin mining versus, your pornography or whatever the hell else you're doing on your computer. But not only that, but now because the power level is under a certain threshold, it's almost hard to differentiate Bitcoin mining from a power level too. You're really
Right. Yeah.
like
I mean,
saving
in terms
us.
yeah, in terms of power, it's like running a desktop computer. So no one can have any reason to raid your house because you're running a 200-watt machine, right? So
Which
again,
we've seen
that's that.
happen over the
Right.
years, Bitcoin mining, get rated or whatever. How do you
Oh yeah.
think Satoshi would view the mining industry like today, like right now, if he looked at it?
Nah, I think it would be appalled.
Yeah.
You know. Um, I mean,
Bitcoin is growing
again,
so fast.
it has, and that's part of the problem. It's a great problem to have, but again, a lot of institutional money has been pouring into, I believe, the wrong places. And it's great for growth, it's great for adoption, but going forward, there needs to be a lot of focus on education and educating, people that download Coinbase, they have, a fraction of a Bitcoin on their account. That's not Bitcoin, right? That's Bank 2.0.
IOU.
What? Yeah, it's like why are we building Bank 2.0 and pushing all these services that are very easy for any individual to run on their own off to these centralized institutions? And you know, obviously our core product is mining, but especially for the Bitcoin version that we just released this year, we focused not just on the mining aspect, but we our controller, and there's essentially a desktop controller. So you can run, the latest version of Ubuntu on there and plug in a monitor and use it as a computer.
Oh,
And
nice.
we
So
did,
they're not just
yeah,
paperweights anymore.
right. And so we did that on purpose. So it wouldn't just be a miner that sits on your desk and becomes obsolete in 2 to 3
It's
years.
also a computer.
It's
Oh,
it's yeah,
awesome.
it's a computer that you can run a full node and run any Bitcoin application on top of it. So again, like those three pillars that I mentioned in the beginning, this device kind of brings that back into a single device that has never been done before. So you're running your wallet, you're running your full node. You can install a Lightning app on top of it.
That's so
You can
cool.
you can install a block explorer. So when you go to these centralized websites that track your transactions that you're putting into a block explorer, you know you're doing it yourself on your own node where no one can see what you're doing, no one can censor your transactions, and you're doing Bitcoin how it should be done on the individual level. That's the point of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was never designed to be run by centralized entities.
Yes, I agree.
It's supposed to
Yes.
be run by individuals, and we need to go back to that narrative, especially people like you and influencers, where it's like I see my Twitter feed all day.
Sure.
It's all about price. Like it's like, come on, guys. Like that's Bitcoin is not about the price. Bitcoin is about the technology, and people need to understand the power of the technology that runs Bitcoin. And people need to understand that they can empower themselves by running this technology on their own. And we need to get back to that narrative.
Well, as the world gets tighter and more controlled, and global financial systems do, and the web does too, you're going to see a huge influx of people buying hardware and being able to run their own nodes. Because as long as Bitcoin always has that ability for you to control your own keys, and there's no way on the network for anyone to differentiate anyone else, and no one can freeze it, and no one can control it, and it's remaining as decentralized as it ever is. And I agree with you. It remains Bitcoin, and the reason that we got into this thing in the first place. But if we go
Right.
down the route is Bitcoin becomes this institutional back and forth thing, then kind of like, oh, it was a great experiment. I'm moving on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big push, right? So they're trying to push, all these big institutions are trying to push the Bitcoin base layer to become this obscure, hard, fuzzy thing that most people don't understand. And, it's run like how, the bank wire network is run right now. That's where that's, at least that's how I see it.
Sure.
That's their end goal. So you only transact Bitcoin through these second layers, and not even Lightning, just centralized second layers,
Yeah.
which is even more dangerous. So that, you know, Bitcoin needs to remain how it is right now, and people need to understand that they need to run the base layer, and that's super important.
What other coins are people mining? Proof of work coins, Litecoin, things like that.
Yeah, so right now the big three proof of work coins are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, or Dogecoin if you want to, since they're on the
Still.
same network. Those are the big three right now.
Do you think if I'm still not sold on Ethereum and the difficulty bomb, Ethereum moving away from proof of work? How do you kind of see that play out? And what is actually
Yeah,
happening there?
I mean that's a hard one. Obviously, I'm a proof of work guy. I believe in that type
Same.
of consensus algorithm. Obviously Ethereum was always supposed to go to proof of stake, so
Yeah,
you
from
can't really
day
fault
one.
them for going there. And that that's going to be a good experiment to see how it works out, especially in a coin that's number two coin. You're shifting that consensus layer from miners to the stakeholders, right? To the people that actually own Bitcoin, that actually own Ethereum. So those are the guys that are going to be validating the chain. Um, Now, whether that's more secure or safer, that's up for debate. I'm not sold, like you said, either or.
Or long term, yeah.
But you could argue that the holders of Ethereum are the ones that will want to secure the network, and they have the most to lose, right? So it makes sense on a high,
On a high level,
level,
yeah.
yeah. But in terms of how that will play out, I'm not sure. That's definitely to be determined for sure.
Should there be should there be any regulations when it comes to mining at all?
No, no. Um,
I have to agree with you because I look at it as a
Again,
technology thing.
especially when you say regulations. I mean, the only thing I see regulated would be the transaction processing.
Yeah.
The actual blocks of mining, right? That's what would be regulated. Well, you can't really regulate. You're not going to regulate someone's ability to.
Yeah, you're
Obviously
right.
big farms might be regulated where you can't expand the farm, or you can only use a certain number of kilowatts at a certain location. That's fine. That would definitely help our narrative. um, but in terms of regulating far, miners and transaction processing, that's a very dangerous slope. That's where we get the end of censorship
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
Bitcoin. So that destroys Bitcoin, in my opinion. So we have to be very careful there.
Are your customers, is it are you looking at Americans solely or global?
No, it's global. So about 60% of our customers are in the US right now. The rest are global.
That's a good number. Global.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So again, the this goes, this whole narrative goes with everything. It has to be decentralized on an individual level. It has to be decentralized on the global scale. Let's say one country somehow figures out how to ban all miners through the
Yeah.
centralized networks by banning IP packets or whatever. Some other country has to pick up that slack. So it's important that it's both on a global scale and then individual.
It's really such a beautiful thing, and I look at I actually have one of the proof of work equations on my whiteboard in my office in the other room. But if I look at all of Bitcoin, proof of work is such a beautiful invention, and how it really will affect so many things in the long term. Um, I really can't understand why proof of stake would even need to be something to be worked on, and I've talked about it on so many episodes over the years, but I'm still not sold.
Yeah, and the thing with proof of stake, right? The other negative of it is it requires you to actually be really embedded in the system, own Ethereum,
Oh
own
yeah.
large number of it. So once, I mean, it's great that they've waited this long to do it, because at least there's millions of users. But once they move to proof of stake, that pretty much cuts off all new users, to participate in the network.
And that's what we've been
and and
talking
that's
about,
and
participation.
that's the good part of Bitcoin and proof of work is that you don't need to own any Bitcoin. You can hear about Bitcoin and be like, oh, cool, I don't own any Bitcoin, but on day one, I can participate in the network like any other person and fully participate in the network. Right? You can download the wallet, you can download the node, you can mine, and you're fully part of the ecosystem. You're earning Bitcoin, you're part of it. And once Ethereum goes to proof of stake, that pretty much cuts off that type of person. They can buy some Ethereum, but they can
It's
not.
permissioned.
Yeah, they can't participate in it. Sure, you can participate in these staking pools where you put in all Ethereum and you're part of the staking pool. But again, staking is being pushed to decentralized entities where other people control the Ethereum, other people control staking, and that again goes against the whole
And that's
narrative
why it's
of.
permissioned. You come in, you need permission to do it. I completely agree with you. Um, I love these Apollo miners. They're beautiful. So I'm looking at now at futurebit.io, and um for $800, you can get the full package, and it's a Bitcoin ASIC miner, a desktop computer running a full node, um, batch 3. This is for less than $1,000. I mean, you need if we had just thousands of these out in the world, you'd be able to counteract, tens of thousands of them, you'd be able to completely counteract that institutionalization of mining.
Right.
100% and maintain that checks and balances. It's so important. Is there what's the current runway if I order one now? Because I'm about to do one.
So we're starting production on the third batch right now. Obviously, we're beholden to the whole
Of course.
IC shortage, like everybody else. We're trying to navigate that. We've been for our size, and our production runs, we've been doing pretty well, but we can't pinpoint exact ship dates yet. So we have a big fuzzy Q4
Awesome.
shipment. So hopefully these will go out by end of the year. That's the current estimate. We should be able
Awesome.
to
That's
ship
fair.
before Christmas. So, yep.
Just mining Bitcoin on Christmas. I love it. John Stefanopoulos,
Yeah.
Future of Bit. Thank you so much for coming on Untold Stories today. I really wanted to hone down on this message, and it's been very difficult for me to actually find someone to be able to bring this out because, like I said, we were talking about this whole mining world is going one direction. Folks like yourself, I have some other. We had actually there's actually a crypto mining conference in Texas in February that I think I'm supposed to be speaking at. A Bitcoin mining conference, actually. It's so if you wanna come, we'll talk about it after the show. Should be
I'll
it's run by
check it out.
cryptomining.tools. Scott offered. He was my first. Untold Story
I,
sponsors
I, I
3
was
years ago.
down at the Bitcoin conference in Miami, so I go to a few of these conferences a year.
Oh,
So
nice. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, thank you for coming on Untold Stories, and I'll talk to you later.
yeah, it was a pleasure.